Mexico for 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here, Mr. Crockett. I want to start by just saying thank you to Representative Hurd for bringing this legislation in preparation for this hearing. We did send it to some of the tribal nations in New Mexico, and obviously because we share a border and a number of forests, we also have a number of tribes for whom these forests are their historic and current homelands. And there's certainly a lot in this bill that our tribes are very supportive of, including forest health tools, infrastructure, hazardous fuel reduction. But we'd love to work with the sponsor to try to improve some of the technical language that protects tribal sovereignty and some of the legal issues that Mr. Crockett outlined. But do appreciate that and also support Mr. Huffman. And I'm grateful for the bipartisan effort to address this. New Mexico is home to 23 sovereign tribes and nations. And for our tribes, they have lived on these lands since time immemorial. And in my district, in New Mexico's 1st Congressional District, which is central New Mexico, including 10 rural counties, we have a lot of different Forest Service districts and a lot of different national forests and tribal forests, including in southern New Mexico, we have the Lincoln County Forest, and this is the Sierra Blanca, which is the mountain in southern New Mexico. And it also is the homeland of the Mescalero Apache people. And not only have the Mescalero people have been managing forests and fire itself for generations, our Mescalero tribe has also been the birthplace that raised some great foresters, including the current president, who is a forester, President Padilla, and the former Undersecretary for Natural Resources, Butch Blazer, who is also a member of the tribe and a former president. So we're proud of the forest stewardship and the leadership nationally that comes out of our tribal communities, and excited to work on a bipartisan basis to bring more resources and more tools to our tribes to manage their historic lands. And so, Deputy, I'd love to ask, I know this has been asked in some different forms here today, but you've been at this game for a long time. What do you see as some of the ways in which Congress can help support better co-management working with our tribes and federal lands?
Thank you for the question. So I would actually start with making sure the tribal voice is brought into the conversation. So you mentioned sharing the bill with your members, and they had a perspective on it. I feel like that's where we start, because their perspective helps to shape a bill that can actually be implemented. Obviously, we're going to have a federal perspective on it anytime a bill comes forward. But I would start with what you're already doing and bringing in that tribal voice and the tribal perspective on it.
And are there other things that you've seen during your time in this role that would help support tribes more directly in terms of that partnership?
I think continued engagement around co-management and co-stewardship. We've seen a significant amount of increase from tribes and through the number of co-stewardship projects, whether it be in fire management or fuels management or salmon restoration or habitat for fisheries restoration. And all of those ideas, like I said earlier, they generated from the things that tribes said were important to them. And then we took those opportunities and overlapped them where we could on the federal landscape, and then had a successful project. So that's what I would name as an example.
Well, I'd love to invite the committee actually to come down to Mescalero, Ruidoso, and actually see forest stewardship in action. It's actually quite extraordinary. If you go to the line of where Mescalero's boundary is and the Forest Service line and see the forest stewardship that they've done, they were actually able to stop catastrophic fire and flooding in a huge forest fire that's ravaged that mountain last year, and you can literally see it in the landscape through how that stewardship was implemented on the ground. But I would be remiss if I did not use this opportunity to also point out, as I think Ranking Member Neguse did, which is you can't do your job if you don't have resources. And I think Mr. Neguse pointed this out, but I just want to put a finer point on this. President Trump delivered a budget to Congress 3 weeks ago that cuts the Forest Service budget by $1.3 billion. billion. That's a lot of money. And that included $303 million in this program, state and tribal stewardship, and people can't do their jobs if they don't have funding. I'll just say, I know you've been doing this work for a long time. People are struggling out there in our Forest Service. So in addition to doing the best that you can to manage in a chaotic situation, just ask that you continue to support our Forest Service folks on the ground, because they don't know what's going to happen, and we really need folks out there. So appreciate you, and thank you for coming in today. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time has expired, and